Hello, Kristen. What are we talking about today?
Hi, Dave. We're talking about trails today, which is very top of mind because we just got back from vacation with your family in the New Hampshire White Mountains, where we did a lot of hiking. So, trails and reflecting on paths walked, trails blazed. So, there's a couple themes that we're working on today, and just, I don't know, trails and travel are kind of going like hand in glove is sort of what we're feeling into. We're about to go to California, and we're co-living with friends, so there's some travel and movement in there that we want to get into a little bit, and then also work. So we've covered a lot of territory with our work over the last few years, and the main theme of our vocation right now is reflecting on those paths that we've taken and trying to map the territory a bit, create artifacts of understanding from those paths that we've walked. And yeah, that's what we're getting into today.
Sounds good. All right, so we're choicing down product coaches from Austin, Texas, and this is a show called The Clearing about growing into yourself as a founder. We're talking about trails and pathfinding and all of these kinds of things.
Yeah. So what was vacation like for you?
Good. I mean, it was nice unplugging. The early times of this, like going into an unplugged state, is always a transition, and it took me a few days. I think the optimum amount of time for one of these things is probably 2 weeks, but
Mm.
we live in the United States, and so things get compacted into a week increment. Like I think in Europe they do like 3 months or something. That would make me go crazy. I don't know, but so yeah, it was really nice. Like the we were talking, Kristen mentioned about the trails and hiking and this kind of thing. This book showed up in our lives called On Trails by Robert Moore, and it's a sort of like design centric look at how trails come to be and the role of paths in the world and this kind of thing. And it's also centered in the White Mountains, which was an interesting synchronicity because that's where we were and how the trail network formed and all this kind of thing. And so I was able to read that at night while sort of during the day we were hiking in the woods, which was really restorative. I would like more of that in my life, but it was good. Family was good. Fun times were had. I feel recharged from nature.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, it was really nice. The whole thing was really nice. And I was shockingly in a good mood the whole time, which never happens to me over, I don't know, family stuff is always strange. Like weird things happen emotionally and psychologically. This time it was pretty good and felt pretty grounded the whole time, which was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we came away with this felt sense that we would like to live in a place with a little bit more elevation. I don't know, variability. So
Yeah.
we're in Austin, and it's pretty. I mean, it's not totally flat here. It's kind of rolling hills ish, but there's no mountains, and the mountain thing is pretty nice. Like you can go, especially mountains like the Appalachian Trail Mountains. Are those the Appalachian Mountains? I should know this. Like, do they have a name? The whole.
I mean, the White Mountains, like the Appalachian Trail sticks together a bunch of different mountain ranges.
Yeah.
Um, but it has like I learned this from the book. It's the the seam between the continents when
Mm.
Pangea broke apart, and so
Whoa.
there's Appalachian like range on like all of the continents that broke apart. So that what they're trying to do is stick together a whole route around the world
Interesting.
now. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. I'm curious about the other mountain ranges, and we're actually traveling with your family next summer to the Great Smoky Mountains, so we'll get to experience a different mountain range. I like the White Mountains because they're fairly easy to summit. It's
Yeah.
not like you can do it an easy like day trip. So, yeah, it was really like we hiked every day, which felt really good.
Yeah.
Really good. That was nice. I miss having access to that, and which kind of reminds me we're about to travel again,
Yeah.
so we're back for not even 2 days and then headed out this afternoon to California and going to the Bay Area where we used to live in Oakland, And so that terrain is also really beautiful, really hilly, and I don't know, more almost in some ways more aggressive
Yeah,
mountains.
it's a bit steeper there. Yeah, different. I mean, depends on where you go, but yeah, the like going back. So this like sort of theme of pathfinding and blazing trails, like leaving marks on trails and sort of optimizing for a route between 2 points or to get to a destination has been like popping up a lot in our conversation. And like so we're going back to the Bay Area where we lived for a little bit. We spent like COVID lockdown there, so like our experience of the place was a bit odd. I mean, compared to how it might have been otherwise. Um, but we spent a lot of time outdoors there, and we've also got friends coming into town, and friends in town that we're like sort of reuniting with in person and doing this co-living thing, like Kristen mentioned. And so yeah, this callback to we nomaded for a while and developed a style of work and like a way of being on the road in relationship to work, which I found to be very, very difficult because I was used to being in front of a big workstation and having things like set. And so we're re-traveling a bit of that path because we've been stationary in Austin for a bit, and so we're picking up some of our old tendencies and
Yeah.
ways of being and trying them out with a lot of the stuff that we've learned. And this is so we're in this interesting reflective period, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the connection to work is interesting because we're staying with three groups of different friends who have all been collaborators at some point in our work lives, whether it was like coworkers or like colleagues from a professional network, which sounds very official, but I guess that's how it goes, or clients. So it's interesting this it kind of points to this like integration of life across different arenas. So having work and friends be not completely separate. Of course, there's a fine line to walk there with all of this, and it can be challenging to be friends with people you work with. I mean, Dave and I are partners, so that there's a line that we have to walk all the time.
Extremely challenging.
But yeah, just being reminded of the territory we've covered with work, I think, is also really top of mind.
Yeah, I mean, what's popping up there is like the sense of. I mean, a lot of people meet friends through work, right? And if you're in a more corporate environment, which I haven't been in a very long time, but like you are sort of pulled together by the interest of the company and by being in the trenches together, like friendships can develop and stuff like this. But what I've noticed in myself and others is like a tendency for those relationships, not always, but often to dissipate once the work
Yeah.
scenario is gone because you're not in the same like headspace and you chose to work for the company, not to be with those people necessarily.
Yeah.
And so in the entrepreneurial work and like the founding work, um, that exists, like you're in partnerships, you're doing work together, whatever, but we are sort of like playing with a more conscious orientation to this, like working with people who have aligned interests and ways of being. And if we get along certain aspects, like there's a possibility of collaborating in a more formal context, and balancing friendship with that sort of work style is something that we've been experimenting with, and even mixing in this like co-living thing, which is interesting. And that's a lot to bear, but like there are methods and techniques for balancing this out, and we've played with we've screwed it up and played with a bunch of different kinds of things, and we're doing another round of that. It's what it seems.
Yeah. I don't know. The experimentation and then this like coming back and reflecting on or literally retracing your path, I think is really important. And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking now, even with nomading and friends and co-living, that kind of thing, the ways that we remember those moments and like the artifacts and like the maps that we create there, we're kind of like photographs, right? And stories that we tell and potentially meeting up again in a same the same place to
Mm.
enjoy the space again. So this kind of, I don't, thinking about how you, I don't know what the right word is. I like the sense of memorializing or leaving. It's like leaving a waypoint
Mm.
or like a marker, that kind of thing. With work, there's more artifacts that we get into and like literal maps because we want to express and invite other people into the work. Not that we don't also want to do that with friendship, but with work, it tends to be more, I don't know, explicit and like tangibilized.
Instrumental, like that.
Yeah.
I think that they're like in the friendship. There's not like maybe there's an intention in your friendship,
There's not a
right?
goal though, as such.
No,
Yeah.
and we're playing with this orientation towards intention and goal and the different distinctions between those to
Sure.
move maybe the goal setting closer to the friendship thing and the and the
Yeah.
friendship thing being oriented towards like the goal maybe more. Yeah, so it's uh, yeah, I don't know, in the work type of thing you are generating, you are producing through labor and through collaboration artifacts for market purpose in our case.
Yeah.
So there's a different orientation to showing up there.
Yeah. I'm also thinking too, like one of the ways that we've been reflecting with work is we recently sent out testimonial requests from clients that we've worked with. And one thing that's just popping into my mind immediately is we want to be doing that more regularly after
Yeah,
working with people. So creating space and making that a habit is something that we're an intention that we're setting now. But this is like another route to reflect, and this is a really interesting way to reflect. And we've done this with friend groups too, not testimonials as such, but helping people to reflect and see each other through different lenses and through different topics. And it creates this multiple perspective view of different people on a certain topic or theme. And
yeah,
so it's really interesting to do this with us at the center and having people reflect on the work that we've been doing. So that's been a really interesting experience, and I think also fits with the theme. Like we're asking other people to go back and reflect on the trails that we've walked together and the guidance that we've been able to give as we moved down those paths.
yeah. And it's coming in like so we have been working on this new website, which is a kind of like narrative structure to point to what we've been doing, the paths
Yep.
we've been traveling, the maps that we're creating, the frameworks that we're bringing to bear, possibly products, all this kind of thing. And we have this abundance of first person experience, and it is
Yep.
really difficult to bring that, especially if there's years of it, into a sort of cohesive form without conversation. And part of getting the website out is bringing it into conversation so that we can be reflected. This aspect of the testimonials, like we got a bunch of them back while we were in vacation, which was a nice feeling. And it helped decenter what our first person experience was and give
Yeah.
us a sort of third person understanding. And there's
Yep.
a narrative, there's a story in there, on
Yep.
a through line on how we're helping, a path potentially, or paths. And it's so much easier to place ourselves within that like
Yeah.
dimensional space when we are looking at how we've affected other people. And so it's a lot more comfortable moving into. I mean, it's a little bit jarring at first because you don't know what you're going to get and all this kind of thing. But
Yep.
like being able to see yourself through other people's eyes helps you, like, or is helping us, or helping me at least, orient to how
No,
we're
same.
presenting ourselves in the world. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you're saying it decentering our perspective from just what we're holding
yeah,
into this like larger group, broader group, and the way that that feels like to me, like the phrase of locating ourselves is coming to mind, which is interesting. Like,
mm,
so it's a relocation almost, or like a recentering into something broader, more diverse, that feels more real in a sense of it's shared, it's
mm,
relational, it's, yeah, across people, which makes it feel more tangible in a way. And then part of the practice that we're moving into is using those testimonials to incorporate them into the website so that we can share with other people how this has been tangibilized, like our relationship with other people.
Yeah, I mean, testimonials and third person content like is always it tends to work better
Yeah.
because seeing somebody through somebody else's eyes who's experienced the thing, it's handy. Yeah, there was something there, and we don't need to take too much of a diversion there, but the sense of placeness, which
Yeah.
we played with a bunch, and
Yeah.
it being uh, like detached from geography
Yeah.
on the internet. And we've been fooling with this in our experience of living by nomading, by being online, and having those things. Whereas before, you didn't have the opportunity uh, in real time to be in multiple places at once with people, right? Because the communication channels weren't robust enough. But
Sure.
now we have this opportunity to exist in what we've been calling like sort of distributed localities, which is like a distributed group of people who are coming back either through like-mindedness or practice or interest or something like this online. Um, and we're trying to like sort of figure out what being in place in virtual and real life environments, what that feels like. And
Totally.
so we've been experimenting a lot with that, and now we're looping back on some of the things that worked well, and then bringing some of that into a lot of that into the work and how we're offering what we're offering. But yeah, so
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind there is the phrase home is where the heart is.
mm,
And there is like a kind of homing that we're doing of
yeah,
finding a way of finding home in relationship to the people in our life, like socially, the people in our life through work, and like just a multifaceted kind of perspective. And it might be in person, it might be online, and finding a kind of center for ourselves as founders is part of the journey that we've been on, and finding that sense of home and then nurturing that, and which is also something that we also extend to the people that we work with, the founders that we work with,
yeah,
because everyone needs to go through that process in some way, shape, or form of getting comfortable and settling in a way, because everything can't be new all the time. This is something we've learned.
yeah.
If you're constantly trailblazing and you're never going back and reflecting, that is one way of living, and you can get a lot of information that way, and it's exhilarating and it can be a lot of fun. There's lots of serendipities. If you're trying to compact something, to distill, to package, to offer something, you have to repeat. You have to go back, and that requires finding some place somewhere in geographic, spiritual, like yeah, psychological, like a sense of being grounded somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is the choosing, especially in founder types tend to have high capabilities, and which means that there's a lot of opportunity. And the if you are chasing all of the opportunity all of the time, nothing compounds, and it becomes very difficult. So, I mean, this is what choicing down is to a degree.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, we're effectively going into a new cycle of work now,
Yep.
and this cycle of work is different than the last because we were sort of in place in Austin over the last 6 weeks, and now we're going to be bouncing around a little bit. So we're sort of this is part of our sort of ethos of designing our cycles in relationship to where we are geographically, where we are in the process of our work, and all of this kind of thing. So it's like taking a multifaceted view of what work wants to show up and in relationship to the context. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like an orientation toward seasons of life as more integrated people, not trying to force like a work structure over the rest of our life, but kind of the inverse. Like, how can work fit into this like broader structure that also includes visiting with family and friends and travel and taking care of ourselves in other ways than just the work thing?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're for this work cycle, we're going to continue doing the podcast. This has been really useful as like a place to reflect and to share, and it's been fun. So, thanks for joining us on our journey. And we're going to get our website out, so creating some output and artifacts around choicing down to codify things a bit that include some of those testimonials. We're also planning on hosting a conversation and I guess a little bit of a presentation at a co-living space downtown in San Francisco where we're staying for a little bit with one of our friends. And yeah, so that's some of the like concrete artifacts that we're cooking up for this cycle.
Yeah. I mean, we're effectively just tacking on to what we are already doing in more of a social and travel environment.
Yep,
Yeah, and we're setting ourselves up for doing. I guess it's a sort of, what is it? A customer discovery interview tour. Like,
basically. Yeah.
yeah, and we want to sort of have like a more grounded sense of who we are before we jump into that, without it being like, perfect or anything. But generally, that's like talking to founders and folks who share our sort of orientation toward entrepreneurship, and seeing how they are interacting with the multifaceted aspects that we're interested in. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything else on that.
No, just seeing other entrepreneurs who view entrepreneurship and work as a part of life,
Yeah,
and how there's more of like this, again, this like integration across different areas of life. And we're sort of cooking up a little framework. That's what we're going to be trying out in the San Francisco co-living space
yeah,
actually this weekend. So yeah, we are curious how other founders will kind of respond to these different areas within the framework, and just understanding how there may or may not be resonance with the experiences that we've had. And yeah, I don't know. I've always found doing these kinds of interviews where you're just talking to people and asking them about how they do whatever it is that they do. People love sharing
yeah.
what their experience is and how they live. So we're excited to tap
Those
into that.
conversations are really fun. Like
Yeah,
every time
super
we
fun.
so yeah. Also, like, people have been reaching out and giving us feedback on what we're talking about here, and it's been helping a ton. So thank you for that. And if you have anything to add, send it our way.
Yeah, and if you're a founder who resonates with anything that we're talking about, let us know if we're not already in touch, and we'll put you on the list for an interview once we're up and running with that.
Cool.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.